You're selling your business, progress is being made, and you're getting close to signing contracts. That's when you discover you've got to do disclosure. My name's Akbar Ali, I'm the Managing Director of Ali Legal, and I work every single working day on high-value corporate transactions. When you sell a business, what you're looking to do is to extract the value from the sale of your business, but also mitigate your risk. Now, the disclosure process and the documents relating to that process are key to ensuring you don't carry risk after you've sold your business. So when you're selling a business, you have to give a series of warranties. These are contractual promises that you're giving to a borrower to let them know that certain aspects of your business are the case. It could mean that you aren't suffering any lawsuits or litigation from employees, customers, suppliers, so the buyer can have that confidence when they go into the business. Now, there will be exceptions to that. The disclosure process is there to allow you to make the buyer aware of any of these issues that will qualify the warranties you are giving. Anything that you disclose is something you cannot be sued for later. Some of the key pitfalls with disclosure. One is not meeting the definition of disclosed. Every contract in a corporate transaction, which is dealing with the sale and purchase of the assets or shares being transferred, will define disclosure. It will explain the extent of it, the standard of it, and the thresholds involved. Now, courts and regulation interferes with agreements where they're in general in a business to consumer setting, but these transactions are being carried out between businesses, and courts and regulators are much less likely to interfere with the agreement you've arrived at and the contract drafting that is specific to your deal. What this means is disclosure will be expressly defined, and once defined, you must understand that definition to then make sure every disclosure you make meets the definition. 2, getting the architecture of a disclosure letter right. There's a front end and a back end. At the front end, you have general disclosures. These are things that the buyer should generally be aware of. It could be inquiries they've made. It could be things within public registers such as Companies House. And then you have the back end, which contains specific disclosures. These are disclosures that you make with narrative and documentation that fits each warranty. And it only qualifies as a disclosure where it creates the exception of making a warranty untrue, inaccurate, or not misleading. 3, a disclosure bundle goes with a disclosure letter. They must tie together. Some disclosures have disclosure bundles which are referenced very specifically relating to each warranty, and some will more broadly capture a full set of warranties or a subset. You must make sure that you have a very well organized disclosure bundle, often contained in a shared drive or a virtual data room, which supports the disclosure letter. When tied together in a neat and organized fashion, they will work to ensure the disclosure has been adequately made. So, when carried out in the wrong way, some sellers I have seen in my career have missed out documents which ought to have been disclosed during the disclosure process. A tremendously easy action to take, but something that could lead to very serious problems later. A warranty claim, which is at the more expensive end and certainly at the more complex end carried out in the High Court, can become a very costly exercise to rectify. How do we handle disclosure at Ali Legal? We block out a big segment of time. This is where we do the bulk of our work when we act for the selling side on a corporate transaction. We block out that time, we go through the warranties line by line to make sure anything that qualifies a warranty features within the disclosure letter. Once we've achieved the exercise of gathering the information that we do need to disclose, we then articulate that very well. I'm proud to say the team at Ali Legal has drafted thousands of disclosure letters. We know what language these documents need to contain, and we can articulate your disclosure and your points extremely well. Now, what you can do as a seller to help us at Ali Legal is to, of course, be very organized with these documents. If you have a loan agreement that you've signed, keep it stored somewhere. In a previous video, we talked about maintaining a due diligence repository of documentation for your business. So there's a historic account of what has taken place. This is super helpful when it comes to disclosure as well. To some degree, you have to make sure that you haven't become complacent about your business. Things which don't feel like issues for you anymore because you've been running your business for so long may not be so obvious for the sake of drafting up a disclosure letter. We can prepare this documentation and we can articulate your disclosure to make sure you're not running a risk, but we do need good quality instructions in order to do that. We can give you some examples, we can bring in a lot of our war stories and experiences to give you ideas as to what you might want to disclose, but there's no better replacement for you looking at your business in an objective, honest way and identifying what are the things that are wrong, what are the things that qualify the warranties, and by taking the time that we do to go through each warranty line by line in a cold, objective way, that will get the information out so we can then get it across to the buyer's legal team. There's an example recently that Ali Legal have been dealing with. A corporate transaction was carried out and a seller failed to do their disclosure right. This means the buyer can say, these are the contractual promises that were given to me on sale, and it transpires that there are certain issues within the business which are causing financial liability to the buyer that the seller should now be responsible for. It's one of those scenarios, again, which I talk about a lot, where prevention can be better than cure. If that disclosure process had been right, if Ali Legal had been instructed to undertake that disclosure process, we wouldn't have that case now being dealt with by our litigation team at a much greater expense. So most people think that signing the contracts and doing your completion is the end of your risk, and it's not. In a lot of ways, it's the beginning of the risk. Most contracts, when it comes to corporate transactions, have elements of deferred consideration, of earn-outs, of obligations that exist far beyond a completion taking place. These are some of the topics that will be the feature of our future YouTube videos. If you're looking for advice from a firm that deals with corporate transactions day to day, you might be planning an exit in the future, you may have signed heads, or you may even be in the thick of a deal which needs rescuing. Contact us at Ali Legal to get the right advice. My name's Akbar Ali, Managing Director, Ali Legal. Do not sign unless I've said it's fine.